All right, guys, we're back. We have Jesse and Heather here from Redwood Rally. They're in our booth this morning, which is kind of exciting because it probably gives you guys just a few minutes of break from the insane foot traffic that you have over there. It's crazy. So tell everybody where they can find you after this. We'll let Jesse talk about the booth number, and then we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna talk about dates. We're gonna talk about what Redwood Rally is, and then why people should attend it. So
Sure. So we're booth number 7183. We're in kind of the main hallway between the food court and the Street Outlaws box. So we put ourselves in there on purpose because we knew it'd get so much traffic. It's been really good.
it's been awesome every time we've been over that way, which is very rare. But you guys have had people looking at stuff. Everybody's been kind of talking to you. You guys kind of look like us. You have a whole lot of people at the booth. Your booth looks great, by the way. That's really cool. We got some shots of that yesterday on the live stream, and then you've got a car in there that's really probably draws a lot of attention, I would imagine. And
Attention, yeah.
so let's talk about the event, though. Let's talk about dates and where it's going to be.
Sure. So we're going to do September
17th through
17th through
21st.
21st. I have my notes down there because I can't quite keep that in my head. But September 17th
17th.
through the 21st. And we're going to do our registration day one day early as well, our check-in. And we're contemplating even doing a test and tune. That's something they really, really requested last year. And we couldn't throw it together at the last minute. So we're thinking about scheduling a test and tune on the Monday check-in day. And we're also working on maybe doing a small tire, big tire shootout that's open to anyone and not necessarily affiliated with the rally. It's just going to be something to where we keep the track open on the weekend, utilize the racetrack for the entire weekend. So that'll be a lot of fun. We're gonna have 5 or 6 days of racing and maybe a test and tune.
Oh man. So the one thing we're seeing a lot of is like the test and tune day early, or tech and testing. I guess we got to come up with some really cool name for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So something kind of fun from that, but it really allows everyone to kind of hang out, and you get to spend 5 or 6 hours at the track and not have the worry of like, okay, now I got to get my car switched over. So it takes a lot of the anxiety out of all of that. So one thing I will say is you said the event is the 17th through the 22nd or 21st. It's really the 16th through the 21st because those folks are coming early.
Correct.
Yep. And I'm sure it's the same way at Redwood Rally as it is at others. When folks show up early, they end up in the parking lots, they end up hanging out, they end up going to dinner together, and you make a ton of friends. So let's talk about the 2023 event and what you guys maybe learned, and then how you're changing things up for 2024.
Right off the top of my head, I know we learned that we need to bring more merch to the event.
More merch. We sold out. We didn't even make it to day one with merch. We sold out.
Registration day, we were sold out.
Yes. Some things that some participants really said that we did well was communication. So we're going to keep that as good as possible.
I hope you don't have to call everybody again.
We
No,
hope Jesse doesn't have to
that's
call. No credit card glitches next year.
I think we'll be good on that note, but I kind of enjoyed it, to be honest. I didn't enjoy it while it was happening and having to explain myself 150 times. But in the end, it was worth it.
And it really built a ton of rapport. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. So I don't want to recap our conversation from yesterday, but guys, that's a huge thing as a promoter, because you're a very busy guy. That's the other side of that. It's not like you do one event a year. You do all kinds of stuff all the time. So, but to take the time and call and dial that phone number and make that voice contact is a huge deal.
Yeah, and the appreciation from racers was really felt. So, that's about as enough that needs to be said about it. They really liked it. I got to know them. When they showed up registration day, I said, "Oh, okay, I remember you." You remembered where most of their states were from, where they came from, and it was a good way to have a mistake.
Yeah, definitely. And so, you had capped it at 200 last year, right? Or 150.
150 public entries.
yes.
Yeah. And then we had a certain amount reserved for sponsors. I think it ended up being like 33.
33.
Yeah.
So 183, but you guys are increasing it because I think everybody has the bug to go to Redwood Rally.
We have one under our belts. We know how we can improve, and we're excited to have more cars next year.
I think basically we're going to try to the people that did last year, the 137 that checked in, they're going to have a window of opportunity to check in early. So we're not necessarily concreting their spot as a grandfathered in deal. They have to put in a little bit of effort, and they'll have
And be ready.
be ready. So the good thing is they'll be able to get in and get done. And then at that point, we should have probably 40 to 50 sponsor spots that are semi-reserved, and then really close to 100 public entries to come back in, which I know not all 137 are going to sign back up. So if we got 100 of them sign up, and then we've got maybe say 50 sponsors that are signing up, then that leaves us another 130 public entries. So we sold out our 150 in less than 10 minutes last year. So I think we're going to be in really good shape.
Oh, I think so too. And again, the views we talked about. So let's talk about, the drive you guys set up last year, all the stuff that you did. We saw all that all over social media, but you're going back to some of the same tracks, and there's one track that people just absolutely requested. So let's tell that story.
So the views are amazing. We actually, on the 2024 route, we have more miles of coastal driving than we did this year. But the track that we were so surprised everybody wanted us to keep was Coos Bay. It is just the quirkiest little track. We had some difficulties with parking just because of the weather. We have some ideas on how to adjust that for next year and make it work with even more cars. But everybody was just like, no, you cannot take Coos Bay off the list. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice having that kind of outlaw track feel. And Drake there at Coos Bay, he's all for it. When we actually got started a little bit late because of the weather and whatnot, we thought we were going to trim that day down last year to one time slip instead of two. And he's like, I've never had this many race cars here. Let's get it done. Let's do two. So we made two mandatory. Now next year there'll be one mandatory at each track. Day one for the Mind Over Matter class, they'll have to get two because they're gonna need one for an index and one for their ET. But we are gonna trim it down to one mandatory. We learned a lot last year about run orders to where we can get the people that need to come in and do massive changeovers. They can get in as early as they want, change their cars over, and then run early, and then change back for the street. So the one and done guys that really just want to change over, get down the racetrack, and get out, they're going to get to run first this year. We started out the week last year with thinking that it would be better to put some cars down the track in the morning, and it ended up kind of holding those guys off. And the problem with that became some of them were driving at night, and you don't want to drive past the best coastal views, the best views in drag and drive at night. So anyway, that's some.
You hear that? You hear him sneak that in? The best coastal views in drag and drive. Listen, that needs to be the tagline of something somewhere. That's on the shirts. I'm telling you, it's awesome. Well, it's eighth mile for all the main classes, and then you do Mind Over Matter is quarter mile. But there's two other quarter mile classes.
The stick shift category was quarter mile last year, or I'm sorry, 2023. We're still this year, but we still have to make a few adjustments to category things. I know we want quarter mile stuff. I know we're going to do some eighth mile stuff. One thing that is kind of fun is the clocks were on to quarter mile last year for all categories.
Yeah.
So we told some of the guys, look, you're turning in your eighth mile times, but if you want to see what you can do, the clocks are on and you can do it. And a lot of people utilize that and had a lot of fun with that. It's there's a lot of, what would you call it? Purists that want the quarter mile stuff. And while we didn't use that for all of the scoring, people could have gone and get their quarter mile times last year.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So we know September 16th through 21st. Tell us about the shootout on Sunday, because I like that this is kind of happening at a few things. I like that your style of bringing this, because that's really kind of what you're known for is drag racing, like, heads up elimination stuff. So you're gonna have a small tire and big tire, and I like that it's open to the public to come in and race with their car. We did that at Back to the Streets, and it was really cool to see like these guys show up in real blown race cars and get their asses kicked by drag and drive cars.
The drag and drive cars I just did, I mean, our new route is 869 miles. So this year it was 700. Next year is going to be just a little bit over that. But yeah, that would be fun to see some of these drag and drive cars beat up on these race cars.
And we don't want to force our Redwood Rally racers. We don't want to force them to add a day to the event. We really wanted to make sure. I like the idea of ending the event on Saturday. That gives people a travel day so they can get home on Sunday, get back to work on Monday. It doesn't spread their vacation time over 2 weeks. We don't want to upset their bosses. We want them to be able to come the following year as well. But when you leave a day open on a weekend at a racetrack with a bunch of fans that want to come back, and I think the shootout is a really good way to say, look, you Redwood Rally guys, you can stay for the shootout or you can head home, and then we'll just open the gates up to anybody that wants to come out and run the shootouts.
That's really cool. You know, we're working through world champion points things. We're working through all that stuff. We're going to have those announced before sick week. I promise we're going to have all that laid out. But definitely with the numbers you guys have, definitely being the second year you are. I mean, I will make this public. You guys are definitely in the world champion points. Your event will qualify for that because of your car count, because of the level of competition you have. We're looking at all that stuff. So I, I think for this next year, we're just going to lay out these are the events that are going to matter. We're not going to do registration count numbers and things like that. And you guys are definitely on that list. So I want to say thanks for putting on an amazing event to be able to do that. And I hope that we have some folks come from the middle of the country and the East Coast and make that trip to you guys, just like all those West Coast guys have been coming and making trips to all the places over here.
I know we have some very fast cars in Northern California that these guys are just jonesing to get on the route now. Some of them last year, they really wanted to do it, but they just didn't know how it was going to be. And then as soon as their buddies got out there on the road and started sending them pictures,
They were kicking themselves.
yeah, they wish they had. And now that FOMO is coming into play for next year. So we're gonna have I think a lot more fast cars coming 2024.
Cars, they weren't quite ready. So the little bit of skepticism, the little bit of hesitation, plus not exactly being ready, like they're coming in 2024 though.
Well, and the hype behind this thing is awesome. So Heather runs all the social media. Okay.
I'm like, Jesse, you got to take over this week.
I got you. Well, we certainly appreciate that. That's a huge part of what we see, and that creates the FOMO. That creates the situation where somebody is like, "How can I make this make sense?" and leave work and be gone for that time. And I hope more people do that this year because I want to see you guys succeed in a way that we haven't had anything West Coast succeed ever before. You guys did it last year, and we know it's probably going to happen this year too, for sure.
Well, I think some of the most fun parts and fun facts that are kind of behind the scenes of what this whole situation was. There's guys that had project cars sitting for 5, 7, 10 years, finished their cars to come to our event. So not only did everybody show up, but guys that have been stacking stuff on their cars in the garage for years got them fixed. Now they're still driving them on the street right now to this day, preparing for next year. Categories we're adding. There's 2 categories we're adding. We don't have the exact format set for them yet, but we are doing.
The categories are going to be very soon.
Right. We are doing something that is going to completely include the female racers. Yep. So that one's going to be called Speed Queens, right?
Speed Queens. And you want to tell them the tagline?
You can tell them.
Make your own damn sandwich.
That's awesome.
But that's actually what was voted on for the class name. But we opted for Speed Queens as the title, and then that as the like little tagline for them.
That's great. That is great.
And kind of coming from popular demand, we're doing a Glory Days gasser category. So it'll be gassers. They did.
We were asked about doing a gasser class, and we were just like, man, I just don't know if we're going to get enough participation this year. But they showed up and they showed out, and they're bringing even more. So everyone's excited for the gasser class.
And I think the 2 other main changes that are coming with categories is it wasn't a complaint. One concern and one suggestion we had was to keep the guys that have full interior street cars, even if they're fast, but full on interior street cars separated from the chassis cars. Yep. But we had to start somewhere. So we just did everything based on tire size. Now we're going to separate the chassis style cars, no interior, stripped out cars. They're going to have their own portion of a tire size category. And then the street cars will have that as well. We're also going to separate, I don't know exactly how it's going to work, if it's going to be 2 separate categories or we're just going to run them separately down the racetrack, but we are going to separate the hard tire street cars from the slicks and race tires. And that's mainly a prep thing. If I do it, we may do it as 2 completely separate categories. There's really no reason not to with the increased car count, but we couldn't make 14, 15 categories with the limited car count that we did last year. So now with the increased car count, it does make it easier for us to split the categories up a little bit.
Well, and I think letting hard tires in is a big deal because a lot of the events are taking that out to where you can't run that. Well, for our event, we just make them wait. Like, hey, you're going to have to run later in the day. And so that gives, the track can prep for all the radial and slick tires and all that kind of stuff. And then those guys can come in with a hard tire at, for us, we start at like 11 and those guys can come in at 2:30 until it closes.
I think one benefit for us on that note is all the tracks around that we go to, they have streetcar programs on certain nights of the week. The tracks are really good at prepping for that. You know, Coos Bay, their track prep is a little different. That whole place is different. So we're gonna work on that a little bit. But for the most part, the rest of the tracks, they know what to do between hard tires and slicks anyway. So with that'll get integrated and incorporated into the way we run our event.
That's really awesome. Well, you guys are taking home a trophy for one of your racers in California. Let's talk about Shane's car and kind of what he ran, because he ended up second on the national 275 plus list. In Based on what you're saying on Coos Bay, he probably shouldn't have done that because he ran a little slower that day. But if he had been faster that day, he would have taken probably number one.
I think he would have. He ran good at Samoa. He ran good at Coos Bay. It's just a track that you can't go as fast as you can at the rest of them. So I think if he could have put down the numbers at Coos Bay that he put down at the other tracks, I think he might have been in first place. But hey, we're happy with him placing it all. That was really, really cool.
Yeah. A top three in that list is a big deal. 600 racers on that raced eighth mile 275 or larger tire. So he's kind of a big deal.
Big deal, yeah.
It's fun. You watch that car leave, and it pulls the wheels up a little bit, and it gets out there about 80 feet, and it pulls them up again, and then it starts skating around, and he drives the piss out of it. And it's fun to watch. I passed him a few times because he's got more changeover to do. He tended to be one of the guys to leave later in the evening. Heather, you would start the day with Leah at the booth doing check-in work, taking time slips and putting data input, and then once they had to leave, I moved myself over there after racing was done, and Jessica and I finished the data input. So Jessica and I were always the last ones to leave the racetracks, headed to the next one. Well, Shane was out the gate either right with us or slightly before us every day. So we were passing each other on the highway between fuel stops and whatever. And he didn't have any road issues until the last travel day, and everybody thought that he had spun out. He had pulled himself off the racetrack and backed off, or I'm sorry, off the highway, off I-5, and backed up off I-5 onto a hill where they had to do some push rod and rocker arm work.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty wild seeing him because he had disconnected his trailer and then backed way over off of I-5, and it looked like the trailer may become separated. Nobody knew what was going on. They had so many people stopping to help, and nothing but thumbs ups and keep on driving.
That's exactly right. Well, that's awesome. Well, congratulations to him. Congratulations to you guys. I hope you hang out here for a few minutes. We'll have some folks come by the booth. So again, booth 4746 in the yellow hall at PRI 2023. Come by and see us, hang out, ask them questions, get signed up, get the link, get all the stuff that you can do for that. Do we know kind of a range of registration dates? So can we give people like a 6-week window, maybe late February, early March?
March, I think we want it to be in spring for sure, springtime.
I think we'll do somewhere mid-February for the 2023 racers. They're going to have their window to get in somewhere mid-February. It's going to be a good test too, because we're going to be able to make sure that our system,
credit thing.
yeah, we're going to make sure our system works as it's supposed to, and then we'll probably do something like March 1st or whatever a good day is in the beginning of March. And then we also got to discuss times, because we got East Coast times, West Coast time. The time zone thing was a little bit of a factor last year. With the software we use, it's got to be done on a laptop or a PC, not a phone. And so that is one thing that we really want to make sure people know, that you have to do that. You have to log in on a PC and do it.
A lot of folks can take their break at work and try and run in. If it's a Monday at 10 a.m., that makes it very difficult to do.
Exactly. So we try to do it. Did we do 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. last year?
7 Pacific time, yeah.
Try to make it to where people can get off work. It's California, so some people have quite a commute, right? So we wanted them to get off work, get home, and just be or whatever, but be somewhere and be prepared, so they hit it at 7 p.m. And we didn't want to do it. We could have done it at 9 p.m. California time, but if anybody on the East Coast want to do it, they'd have to wait up till midnight, and that's not quite fair. So somewhere in that early mid-evening is where it'll be, and we'll just pick the best day to do it. We don't want to do it on sports day. We don't want to do it. We just got to make it work.
Have a ton of announcements. We do after PRI, we're going to get back to the announcements, back to our email subscription. So definitely sign up for the emails on our website if you haven't already. Those are going to redwoodrarally.com. So yeah, sign up for that. We're going to be sending out emails regularly saying, hey, this is the registration day. Hey, this is the registration time. We're going to send it out like an hour before, saying, get ready, get your stuff ready. It's coming. So
if anybody notices that email an hour before registration, they've missed a lot, because I promise we're going to be on it weeks and weeks and weeks ahead of time.
That's great. Well, congratulations, guys. I can't wait to see all this stuff. And again, like I said yesterday, it's one of my top events that I'm trying to get to for 2024. Yeah, I would love to. So tell them where obviously they can find all the social media, all that kind of stuff. Again, let's run through all the channels that you're on, and then the website one more time.
So Facebook is just Redwood Rally. Instagram is redwood.rally because the other one was taken. Website redwoodrallye.com. I'm sure you can just Google all of it and it'll come up. So.
Awesome. Well, there's a RV rally that's our RV event that's out there. So you what's cool is like your SEO and your workload has surpassed him if you start looking on Google. So congratulations on that. Again, Redwood Rally, September 16th through 21st, but plan to be there the 22nd for the small and big tire shootout. Thanks for watching, guys.